Hello, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining in for our 12th episode of the Prosperity Project. I am Lily Poteet.
And my name is Braden Turner.
And we are co-hosts of the show, and today we have two very special guests. We have...
Pastor Brian Petak, the pastor of the Ascent Church.
And hi, I'm Barbara Rabideau. I attend the Ascent Church, and I'm coordinating the Run4Hope 5K for schools this year.
Awesome. We are very grateful to have these two guests on the show, and today they're just going to kind of talk about the Run4Hope 5K for schools that is being put on in Monument in September. So I know you guys said your positions at the Ascent Church, but what does that...
What does that entail?
What is...
Yeah, first of all, let me just say we're honored to be on this podcast.
Thank you guys
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
It really goes back to 7 years ago. We realized that there's an epidemic of mental health in this particular area and all throughout El Paso County. And we as a church asked ourselves the question, how can we make an impact?
Yeah.
And our mission statement talks about making an impact in the community and all around the world. And so we thought the best impact we could make is to help local schools.
Yeah.
And we want to help students and teachers and parents. We want to help families. And so what's the best way to do that? And we thought, well, let's raise money for suicide prevention and awareness in the local schools. And that's where the Run4Hope 5K for schools was birthed back in 2017. And so we're just honored to continue that annual race and continue to make those connections with schools in D20 and D38.
That's awesome. That is so cool.
So you kind of touched on it already, but what makes the Ascent Church in particular so concerned with mental health, especially teenage mental health? I feel like, at least in our region, I feel like your church in particular is one of the few that makes a lot of efforts to address this problem.
Well, first I would say I have 4 boys. I used to be able to say it, all 4 are teenagers, but my 19-year-old turned 20. But I still have 3 teenage boys. And so I'm personally very concerned about mental health with our students because of that. But we also have a thriving student ministry and we have many students that come in and through our student ministry, and we want to help them. We can see that students need hope. And we talk to leaders in all of these schools. We've now reached into, I think it's 15 schools now that have received help over these years. And every single leader in these schools talks about how there are issues with mental health and social emotional health and awareness and finding hope. And the stresses are off the charts for performance in schools and, just to excel in school in this community. And so
For sure.
that's where it comes from. I mean, we love our community and we love students. And every student has parents, and we want to help the parents also, so it really gets down to how do we help families in the community.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just bonding those relationships together between the parents and the kids, and just kind of creating a sustainable mental health awareness program. And just
Exactly. I mean, with 3 teenage boys, four boys, 1 that's 20, we have our own issues in our own family. And so my wife Heidi and I are always working together to cooperate to figure out how to individually help each of our sons. But we know that not every family has the benefit of having 2 parents in the home.
Yeah.
There are families that are split up, or the divorce has happened in a family or what have you. And so there are needs for resources, and we're so thrilled that the local schools in both D38 and D20 have programs and have leaders that are just as concerned as we are.
Yeah.
And so we love sitting down with those schools and those leaders and talking face to face about how can we help. And that's really where this came from, is just how can we make an impact.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And my children are grown, but I had D20 babies,
Okay.
and so just working a lot with the social workers in D20. My kids graduated 2013, to just still be involved in teenagers' lives and try to influence in a positive way with the grandbabies coming up and growing up. And so it's important for me just to stay connected with my community, even though my kids have had to move away for military reasons. So I'm just thrilled to be a part of it, working with David Galvin at Pikes Peak Suicide Prevention and just learning something that we can then maybe funnel into the community, because that's what they've proven, that when the community gets involved, it helps the kids. And that's so important. So.
A few years ago, I personally went through youth mental health first aid training, and we actually hosted one of those. And it was so eye-opening, honestly shocking, to hear the statistics of depression and anxiety in teenagers' lives. In not only the pressure to perform and get grades so that you can get into college and all of those things, but just dealing with life and dealing with the societal pressures and peer pressure and the things that social media brings on. And, you know, just we all can succumb to those pressures.
For sure.
And so we want to be able to help and provide those resources. And when we took a team of people through youth mental health first aid, we recognized that it's important to have adults that care and that have adults that are trained and know what to do when certain situations come up. And then we also know it's just as important for students to have peer friendships and relationships, that when they see signs of depression or anxiety or hopelessness, that they're also equipped with tools to be able to step in and ask the right questions at the right time.
Absolutely.
So you guys said that, Barbie, you especially, your kid graduated in 2013, and we know in El Paso County, especially like this last decade, has been really rough in terms of the suicide rates amongst teens. Do you think there has been an increase in support and resources for mental health within schools? Do you think that you've seen that, at least working at the church, and from what you saw when your kid was in high school back in 2013?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, with social media, I think there's a lot of other, other pressures that kids have, because there's constantly rejection or loneliness. There's always something in front of them that my kids didn't necessarily have to the degree that kids do today. But interesting enough, I have seen it. I've seen it evolve. In 2016, when DCC had so many, they lost so many kids to suicide, I was actually praying with my coworker whose son was going to DCC. And so I knew that things were happening, but then the church was doing it too. So then my church was doing it as well, and you just keep going forward and forward. Started with four schools, and now it's in 18 schools. So I've seen a lot of people come on board, and I think if I've heard other podcasts that you guys have done, that they really need more adult leaders involved. Really 988 needs to be manned a little bit more, so maybe we can influence it some way to get people more involved on that side of things. But yeah, I hope I answered your question.
No, you did.
I feel like I'm rambling now.
No, for sure.
So we want to dive into like the Run4Hope 5K and what it's about, but I do want to ask a question first. If there's another organization like the Ascent Church who is also concerned with a topic like this, how would they go about kind of starting to make a difference like you guys have?
Well, there's an organization that, again, Barbara referred to David Galvan. I've been a part of the youth, or it's the Suicide Prevention and Awareness subgroup in El Paso County, and they can get involved with that organization. It's really a wonderful and thriving organization that really is getting into the deeper issues into how we can be a part of the solution. Things like the different trainings. There's a soul shop training, youth mental health first aid, and some other opportunities. And I would just encourage people to get a hold of David Galvan.
Yeah. Awesome.
He does the Soul Shop training, but there are others out there, and we don't specifically endorse one in particular, but we want to be able to resource whatever the schools think is the best resource for their context.
Absolutely.
And so, but I think getting involved or at least going to the website and seeing what the El Paso County subgroup is doing is probably a good first step. Perfect.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I would add that this topic really hit home a couple years ago. We've been doing this race for 7 years, but a little over 2 years ago, one of our very own, a young man here at Ascent Church, took his life. The race, the Run for Hope 5K, took on new meaning that year.
Yeah.
Calvin Patterson was a junior at LP, and he actually worked on our staff team. And he actually moved the books in my office that we're looking at right now the week before, and his parents are important to us, and we have partnered with them, and they've come to the race to be there to support even after Calvin's death. And so we don't want that to happen ever again. One person taking their life is one too many.
Absolutely.
And so if we can provide resources for hope and strength for people, for young people, at any age really, then we want to be a part of that solution.
Yeah. That's great to hear. And then just diving into the Run for Hope 5K for Schools event. Where is it? Can you tell us a little bit about just like,
Yeah,
the
you
whole
bet.
race?
Yeah, so it's scheduled for Saturday, September 16th. And the race starts at 9. The competitive race starts at 9. And then we have a 2-mile fun run walk. It's all a color run, so you get nailed with color all through the course. But that starts at 9:15. And then we have Roar for Hope for little kids that are 5th grade and under, that they do it in the parking lot. And so it's really fun. We have vendors. We have a pancake breakfast that we put on every year with all the fixings, a lot of bacon, things like that. So
You will be well fed.
you will be well fed. We are here early. We have bounce houses, balloon animals, face painting.
It's a party.
So it's a fun
Seriously,
time. It is
yeah.
a celebration of hope.
Yeah.
And you can feel it when you're there. So yeah, it's here at church, the Ascent Church, 1750 Deer Creek Road.
Perfect.
And the start line and finish line are right here in the parking lot.
Yep.
And the course is a really neat course, goes through the beautiful town of
Yeah.
Woodmore,
Yeah.
It's
a
beautiful.
monument.
It really is.
very
Yeah.
nice.
And,
They walked it with me.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yes, we did.
It's a little hilly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
people
yeah.
have
But
to be
that's
okay
okay.
with hills.
It's all good.
But we have over 500 pounds of color
Oh yeah.
to
yeah.
throw at
Fun.
people.
Jeez.
So
So
people,
much fun.
we have awards for people that get the most color
Douse.
thrown
Oh,
on them.
really?
Really?
Douse.
We always get
Yeah.
a lot of great
That's funny.
pictures with
Yeah.
that. It's so
and
fun.
you know what? You can be young. You can be old. The oldest last year was 92.
I know, I
You
heard
can go
about
to
that.
our.
That's,
You can go to our website, run4hope5kforschools.com. You'll see pictures there. You can see how you can volunteer, donate, sponsor, all of that. And so we'd love for more of the community to be involved in it. So
A shout out to Glenn Bethany, who was
Oh, yeah,
the
he
92-year-old.
yes,
he's
he's
the
on
one
there.
that
Yeah.
So
came
cute.
across the finish line on his own. It was amazing.
Yeah.
We have
Awesome.
raised over $140,000
wow.
in the last 6 years.
Yes.
Wow.
And this is the 7th.
That's
and
crazy.
all those dollars go to the schools
Yeah.
for the various programs that they run. And we want to raise more. Every year we just put the word out to the community. It seems like there's momentum building.
yeah.
More and
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
organizations, for-profit companies, small businesses get involved every year because I think everybody wants to be a part of the solution. So this
Oh,
is a
for
way
sure.
to get people in the community involved in being
Right.
a part of that solution. So we want to raise more and more money for suicide prevention and awareness.
And I think if a 92-year-old can do the race, I think anyone listening can do the race. as well.
Agreed.
Everyone
You
should
have
be
no
inspired.
excuse- no
Glenn
excuse.
Bethany. Yeah.
No
Absolutely.
excuse at
So
all.
much fun.
Exactly. And then how can someone sign up for the 5K if they're interested?
Again, on the Run for Hope 5K for schools.com, they can run, or events.com, house sports, also has it listed on their website. If you Google it right now, you're going to see it on every event calendar, so you're going to know how to
Gotcha.
find it.
Perfect.
And so, yeah,
Awesome.
Perfect.
yeah.
Go to www.run4hope5kforschools.com.
Perfect. So, you guys have mentioned multiple times so far that all the proceeds of this event will be going into programs at various schools in our community. Would you be willing to elaborate a little bit about what those programs are and how these programs are improving mental health?
Yeah, sure. One of the things that we implemented this year is an application for funds, because we really just wanted to make sure what the impacts were and
For
what
sure.
what are the programs
Yeah.
out there. And so we don't, like Brian had indicated earlier, we don't really endorse any particular program, but there are a lot of them out there. Social emotional wellness. I'm going to say them wrong, so I'm not going to mention them. But there were a lot in the application that we
Yeah.
didn't even know they were out there or
Yeah.
being utilized. And so the couple that Brian mentioned, youth mental health awareness and Soul Shop, I've been to both of them in this last year. Those are really, really good for the community, because again, we know that the schools are working in D20 and D38 to get some information to the students, but it's really the community that needs to be aware of it
Yeah.
too. So that's another focus that we're going
Okay.
towards.
Yeah.
Because it does cost, but we can help, with a reduced cost and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's really important. But one of the neat things that we saw in a lot of the schools is, as resources get thinner, they're saying, hey, that program overlaps with this program. Let's go together. Let's
Gotcha.
put
That's
our funds
wonderful.
together and bridge some of those things so we can keep everything still going. Whether it's a military, one of the schools had introduction of military families because they have a lot of military coming in and out. Well, they're at risk, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's a trigger. They move all the time. They don't get to really settle and get, community for
Yep.
a long time. So they've recognized that. So I just think it's wonderful how the schools are like, oh, wait a minute. We're all chasing the same
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
for these students. Let's come together and make it work better as one. And
Exactly.
so I think that's a neat thing that we've seen
For sure.
evolving over the years. So
And just to expand on something Barbara already said, we believe the individual schools know best what's best for their context.
Yeah.
And so we want to trust the leaders in the schools. That's why we aren't endorsing one program.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We want to entrust the funds to the leaders, and then we have this application process, so they have to be thinking through where these funds are going and how they're being used, because we want to have accountability.
Oh,
sure.
We don't
Right.
we aren't just going to send dollars just without any strings attached, because the strings are the accountability.
Exactly.
And so when a school fills out the application, they're basically saying to us, here's how we're using the funds, here's how it benefits students, here's how it brings hope.
Gotcha.
And you can see the progression, I assume, like through the years, if the schools come back for the application process the following year and stuff like that. So I think that's super cool and a way to keep that
Yeah.
accountability.
And
which
I
is
have
great.
to say, one of the biggest questions on the application is what is the impact?
Yeah.
How is this helping the students? And just to hear the testimonies from some of the kids, that were contemplating suicide and now they're a peer leader, or they're like, I didn't think anybody was going through the same thing that I was going through.
Yeah.
And now they have that hope is restored for them. And we have a group of 5 of us, and we read that repeatedly on those applications, which just is a blessing. I mean, that's what we want.
Exactly.
I mean, again, just if it just impacts one student, which we're seeing far more than that.
Yeah.
And so it's just awesome.
It is really
That's
special.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Is there anything extra you guys would like to elaborate on or put out there for the Run for Hope?
Yeah, I would like to say, just managing it the last couple of years and just working on the sponsor side of it. If you are a business owner, or of somebody that's a business owner and you're thinking, how can I be a part of it? We are always looking for sponsors. And that's the one thing. I think the application schools were requesting like $68,000.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I had
Yeah.
$68,000
Yeah,
every year
exactly.
Yeah.
to put back into the schools.
Oh,
Because,
yeah.
man, what could you do with all those campaigns?
Exactly.
Getting more, it'd be endless. So if you're thinking about being a sponsor, or if you're always wondering, like, are they really using the money to what they're using it for? I have full confidence that the schools are using it for what they intended, what we intended them to use it for.
Yeah.
And so, I hope you reach out. I hope you go to Run4Hope 5kforschools.com and reach out to us.
Perfect. So if someone is interested in sponsoring, that's where they would find information online.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
And let me just put out the personal invitation, inviting everyone to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Come out
Absolutely.
Saturday, September 16th, either to run or to walk or to sponsor or to volunteer. It's going to be a fun community-wide party. And I will say this, I think the Lewis Palmer students should put out a challenge to the other schools in the area.
Yes.
Because we know that Lewis Palmer is heavily invested,
Absolutely.
involved.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so is Discovery Canyon, so are there, and Palmer Ridge. But you know what? I think you need to put the challenge out there to PR and DCC and Monument Academy and all these other schools.
I think we should.
Because if we had a battle between schools as to how many students come out and get involved, what a
Special, yeah.
huge community-wide party that would be.
Right.
Yeah.
So put the challenge out there.
Let's
Absolutely.
do it.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
do it.
and I do want to thank all of the 2023 sponsors that have come on board already this year. And so we've raised I think we're over 22,000
That's awesome.
right now. And so, so thank you to the ones that have already committed and donated. And even if, if you're like, oh God, I don't have any money. I only have like $20. $20 amongst people, it still goes a
Goes
long
a
way.
very long
And
way.
so never think that your contribution isn't enough, because it is.
More dollars bring more hope
Yep.
and more awareness for these issues. And we want to be a part of a team, community-wide, that brings awareness and hope to this community. So join us.
Yes. And then there's a couple of fundraisers that we're doing with a couple local restaurants. Perry's Pizzeria and Tap House at 1268 Interquest Parkway. On September 16th, they're going to donate 20% of the proceeds from 11 to 8 p.m. And then also Jarrito Loco at 582 Highway 105 here in Monument. Love their food. September 23rd, which is the Thursday after the race, they're doing a fundraiser from 11 to 9 p.m., also donating 20% of the proceeds.
Awesome.
And it's dine-in, carry-out, and you just need to let them know you're there for Run4Hope, and they'll take care of the rest. So
Perfect.
Awesome. That
everybody
sounds
likes
great.
to eat, so
Exactly.
easy for
Yeah.
you to get involved.
Exactly.
Exactly.
We do want to dive into some resources that any listeners can go to if they feel like they need to reach out to someone. We do this after every podcast, so if you'd like to.
Yeah, so locally, for local resources, you can reach out to NAMI Colorado Springs, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They offer several programs regarding improving personal mental health, and plenty of resources to go to during a mental health crisis, so you can reach out to them. Another local resource is Safe to Tell, which is an anonymous reporting service where you can report anything that concerns or threatens you, your family, your friends, or your community. It's a 24/7 service, and that number is 877-542-7233. And then Colorado Crisis Services, they offer immediate help to issues regarding substance abuse, sexuality, identity issues, depression and anxiety, and more. And then the Lewis Palmer School District Counseling page also is a great directory resource to find extensive resources within the area and beyond, from local to national scales. And then lastly, for our local resources, I Matter Colorado is a program that connects teenagers with up to 6 free confidential therapy sessions and will match you with an appropriate therapist based on your needs and your concerns.
And then as for broader resources, we have two, as Barbara said earlier, 988, which is the National Crisis Hotline and Suicide Prevention Hotline, where you can get online support from a trained professional for absolutely any problem There have been known to be waiting times, so if you do find that as a problem, please reach out to the local resources that we mentioned before. And then also the Trevor Project, which is a website that offers immediate access to a crisis counselor, for LGBTQ youth. And then if you're willing to get involved, we have the Pikes Peak Suicide Prevention Partnership. It's a community in the Pikes Peak region oriented towards spreading awareness of mental health and suicide prevention through resources, events, and training like QPR, which is called Question, Persuade, and Refer. And then if you're a teenager listening, they also have a teen advocacy board if you want to join.
And that our kickoff date is August 15th at the Pikes Peak Suicide Prevention Partnership. I don't know, place?
Headquarters?
I don't know. Yeah,
Headquarters. It's
in
downtown
Colorado
Portland.
Springs. Yeah, so if you want to join, that would be a great date to get involved.
And then lastly, we have So Coalition, which is an organization up here in the Tri-Lakes area. They're partnered with PPSPP, and they're also oriented towards teenage mental health and suicide prevention. If you're interested, please reach out to our principal at LPHS, Miss O'Connor, or our school social worker, Miss Sell. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. If you're interested in filling out our Google survey, we would love for you to do that. It gives us a lot of feedback on where to kind of steer the podcast and what you guys would like to listen to. And a big, big thank you to Ryan and Barbara here. It really means a lot for you guys to come on and talk about this event you guys are hosting. And
Glad to be a part of this awesome
absolutely.
podcast.
Yeah,
Thanks
you
for
guys
having
are
us.
doing great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
It means so much. So thank you guys. Goodbye.